that dazzled them all.
Gentlemen, start your engine!
Oh, got trouble.
Again, Jamie McMurray for the third time.
It won't turn. Worst case scenario, you can change the shot.
Look at a lead change right here, folks. Mark in the books, Dale Earnhardt Jr. is leading.
Reeling in some red snapper.
And after a 51-race winless streak, Kurt Busch takes the win at Pocono Raceway. We welcome you to our live coverage of NASCAR on ESPN. It is Nextel Cup pole qualifying from historic Watkins Glen International here in the central New York area of the Finger Lakes region. After 21 of 36 events on the Nextel Cup schedule and only 5 events remaining in the race to the chase, take a look at the point standings. Jeff Gordon a very comfortable lead over Denny Hamlin. Jimmy Johnson rebounding last week at Pocono moves up a couple of spots to 7th. And the all-important transfer spot back in 12th. You see that Kurt Busch holds that position, but only 7 points in front of Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Ryan Newman and others, Mark Martin and company, in the chase, although Mark Martin is not going to run the full schedule for the remainder of the year. Well, as fate would have it, the rains have begun to move into Watkins Glen here just a moment ago. We had some rain showers move across this morning, which abbreviated the NASCAR Nextel Cup practice, and we were hoping to get underway here with Nextel Cup qualifying, but it will be put on hold for a few minutes while we check the racetrack and just see how damp the circuit has gotten. Well, we welcome you along with the champs, Rusty Wallace, Andy Petrie. I'm Jerry Punch. We're in our pit studio right behind pit road here in the front straightaway. And guys, this morning, because of a rain shower, NASCAR Nextel Cup practice was abbreviated, and so very few teams, if any, got to go out with a qualifying setup. Now, what will happen with that limited, plus what's happening now on the racetrack, how will that impact qualifying?
Jerry, I don't really think it's going to have a big effect on qualifying. These teams, they really understand what they need in their cars for qualifying. Their air pressure settings, they're going to put a little more tape on the grill, things like that. But they've done this enough that they probably feel pretty good because they had enough practice. They lost about 5 minutes, about all they lost.
And this is the kind of track where really the qualifying setup is not that much different than the race setup because of these turns and all the, the road course shifting and all these sort of things. It really is all about the driver getting in his rhythm and making sure he hits all his marks. The teams can do some things like put a little extra timing in the engine, put tape on the grill and that sort of thing to make the car go faster, but it is about the driver's timing. I don't think it's going to be a big deal that they didn't actually make a mock qualifying run, we call it.
And remember, Juan Pablo Montoya proved at Infineon is not where you start. He started 32nd and won that race back in June. Speaking of Juan Pablo Montoya, let's check in more on his story with Dave Burns.
And, of course, it began this year with the NASCAR Busch Series in Mexico City. Juan Pablo winning his first NASCAR race of any kind. And after winning that road course race, of course, as you mentioned, he won at Infineon. Now, here at Watkins Glen, if he could win for a third time at a different track in the same season, well, that'd be the first time that's happened in NASCAR competition. So a big weekend here for Juan Pablo. Remember, that victory at Infineon was important in another way. Dodge had not won on a road course since 1977 with the King, Richard Petty. And Dodge has 0 wins here at Watkins Glen, so he could do a big thing for Dodge here this weekend as well. Of course, for himself, just trying to put the 42 back in victory lane another time. Qualifying next, we'll see if he gets a chance to do that today and put this car in the field. Mike Massaro.
Well, Dave, as the rain falls, it spells especially bad news for those go-or-go homers, people who have to qualify on speed alone. And there's 14 drivers vying for 8 positions that are reserved for guys who go or go home. Among them, there are 3 former Nextel Cup Series champions, a slew of road course ringers, and yes, one Cinderella story. Marcus Ambrose says Robbie Gordon's offer to field the second car for him this weekend is part apology, part compliment. But for Ambrose to fulfill that fairy tale ending and qualify for his first Nextel Cup race, he needs to find some speed. In practice Friday morning, he was 35th on the speed chart, 13th amongst the go-or-go homers. And there's more bad news. As we said, the rain's falling, and if qualifying gets rained out, he goes home. Guys?
Thanks, Mike and Dave. What a great story. What a tremendous story. The fact that Robbie Gordon last week at Montreal got into trouble and actually spun out Marcus Ambrose and took a win that would have been him in the NASCAR Busch Series away from him. But then a gesture this week and said, I took a Busch win away, but now I'm going to give you a chance to possibly get your very first Nextel Cup victory by driving my team car.
I think it shows just how much respect that Robbie Gordon has for Marcus Ambrose as a driver and a person, because they had their little bang up over there in Montreal, but this is kind of the ultimate little apology, and I think it's something Marcus will look back on with fond memories later.
Tell you what, Marcus is a great road course driver. He proved us last weekend at Montreal, Jerry, what he can really do. And I really didn't know Marcus Ambrose was that good on a road course. So knowing Robbie Gordon, like we all know him, he's out to win. And he saw that performance out of Ambrose and said, hey, if I'm going to put anybody in a second car, I'm going to put the guy that I had a race last week in that car.
Well, speaking of Montreal, let's take a look back at the NASCAR Busch race, which was the slugfest at Montreal 1 week ago.
Marcus Ambrose in search of his first career NASCAR Busch Series win. Robbie Gordon behind him. Big pile up down in turn 2.
Robbie Gordon to the inside with a lead.
Ambrose goes back on him. Who is leading the race? When did the caution come out? Where are they going to put Robbie Gordon?
We need to get behind the 30, and here we're going to get black flag. Get black flag after the race. I'm staying here.
They are putting the black flag up for Robbie Gordon. And indeed, Gordon will hit Ambrose.
If you want to know my opinion, I won the race.
I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
We'll appeal it. We won this race.
Kevin Harvick wins here in Montreal.
What a bizarre finish.
The drama of Montreal 1 week ago, and Marcus Ambrose, very philosophic. I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. And what a great character, what a great personality this young man, Marcus Ambrose, who came from Australia after being an accomplished road racer down there, starting to move up a little bit in the NASCAR Busch Series points. And, of course, he finished 7th last week, despite the fact that he looked like he had his first win just wrapped up until that bump from Robbie Gordon.
And that's what I love about road course racing. It's got so many elements to it, and all the things, and the cautions fall at the end of the race. You've got all these guys bunched up. You've got all these turns and shifting, and it just makes road course racing very entertaining. I'm glad we've got 2 of them in a row now for the Busch Series, and I'm glad to get back here with the Cup Series on a road course.
Yeah, Marcus says it's like Australian rules football, where you fight and you fight and you fight, then you decide to all go out and have a beverage together and just have fun, sort of like what happened with him and Robbie Gordon.
Well, it seemed like they fought and fought last week, that was for sure, but I went back and watched that race many times, guys, and I tell you what, Robbie Gordon, you kind of got a feel for him. You really do. Here's a guy that was leading the race. He thought, he gets spun out by the guy he thought was in second, and NASCAR said he had to go back to 13th. Well, knowing Robbie like we do again, he didn't want to do that. And, if he would have went back to 13th in that race, it's probably where he would have ended it. He fought it. He's kind of a hard-nosed guy, but, boy, you want to learn one thing out of this. You do not disrespect NASCAR. And if they tell you to go back, you go back. You can't fight them because, they hold the big baseball bat, that's for sure.
One has to wonder if they're running 1-2 here this weekend in the final laps, what will happen. Even though Marcus is driving the car owned by Robbie or vice versa, if they'll have some contact again.
I don't think you'll see anything different. I think these guys want to win bad enough they did the same thing.
I think it'll be even more contact this week. Well, we'll have all the action for you this weekend at Watkins Glen International. NASCAR Busch Series final practice will conclude after our coverage of Nextel Cup qualifying. And folks, on Saturday we'll be here until racing is done. Busch Series qualifying, Nextel Cup happy hour, the NASCAR Busch Series at Watkins Glen event. That starts at 3 o'clock Eastern time, and then live flag-to-flag coverage of the NASCAR Nextel Cup Series at Watkins Glen beginning at 1 o'clock on Sunday.
Watkins Glen is one of the traditional old-style road race tracks where the corners are long and fast. You can really sink your teeth into it.
I love racing at Glen. It's like a super speedway road courses. I mean, you can drive the car hard. You can be real aggressive with the car.
In terms of the corner speed and the top speed, I think you're probably 30 miles an hour faster through the S's of the Glen.
Because it is a road course and there's not a lot of passing zones. So the ones that you have, everybody tries to take an opportunity there. And turn 1 is always something going on there, especially on restart.
Well, here is the 2.45-mile course those drivers are talking about.
As you see, turn 1, a lot of passing there. Now they come through the S's, very fast S's. A lot of stuff goes on through there. A lot of speed down the back straight and passing through the inner loop you see there. Turn 9, they call it. There's another passing zone going up into turn 10 we're about to approach right now. That's a fast left-hander. Then the last right-hander coming to the start-finish line here at Watkins Glen. And as you can see, many different corners and many different passing zones at this racetrack.
And you don't have to be a road course specialist to win here. Take a look at the numbers here, Andy. And these guys, Jeff Gordon has been almost unbeatable. Ricky Rudd has been good.
Yeah, maybe not be a road course specialist, but every one of the persons or the drivers you see on this list are great road racers. Now you look at Jeff Gordon, Ricky Rudd, Tony Stewart, and Juan Pablo Montoya now winning his race out there at Sears Point at the Infineon Raceway, but also winning in Mexico. So these guys are all great road racers. They're just not what we call road racing specialists that are just brought in as hired guns.
Well, 4 of those 9 road course wins for Jeff Gordon came here at historic Watkins Glen International, and Jeff is standing by with Mike.
And, Doc, none of them have been since 2001. Where have you been? We've missed you in Victory Lane here in Watkins Glen.
I know. We've missed it, too. We've been getting beat, and we've had some misfortunes here. But, you know, Tony's been strong, Harvick's been strong, and Robbie Gordon's been strong. And I don't know. I felt like we really made some gains with this new car. We tested it at Road Atlanta. This place is a little bit different than that, so we were playing catch-up a little bit there in practice. But I thought towards the end of it, we were pretty good. But this early draw, especially with this weather, not going to help us out a whole lot.
Yeah, and you're sitting next to the guy who's supposed to go out first. That's Kenny Wallace. What have you guys been talking about here as we wait out the rain?
I've been telling Jeff how proud of him I am because him and his wife have a baby now. And then he was telling me he didn't know how I did it at such a... I reminded Jeff that when we met each other, I had 3 kids.
3 kids. I mean,
20-something years old.
We've known each other for like 17, 18 years or something. So, you know, just talking families and stuff. But, you know, it's an amazing experience. And he's been telling me about these great experiences with him, with his kids for all these years. And now I can relate to that. And but at the same time, early in my career, I just don't know how, you know, could have handled and balanced that out. But as he reminded me, it doesn't matter when you have it, you're never prepared.
So has Ella been fitted for a seat yet?
No, not yet. Not yet. I think he's got some girls that have done some racing over the years, but I don't know. I think it's a little early. We'll see. We'll see. I think she's going to have some skills somewhere in as an athlete, but I don't know if it's going to be a racing.
On PlayStation.
Yeah.
His daughter will have skills on PlayStation 2 or one of those games.
My guess is she'll pick up a couple of tricks here and there. Let's talk road course racing now, will we? Obviously, you're very skilled at this racetrack and Sonoma as well in the contemporary car. But the car of tomorrow, kind of a new twist. How does that change the way you need to attack this track?
Well, that's just it. You know, how hard can you attack? Because this is a track that really demands for you to be aggressive, to go fast, and yet this car doesn't allow you to do that, especially on the entry. So it's just trying to find that balance as to how much speed you can carry into the corner without overshooting it, and then trying to get the car up off the corner. And you know, we're so limited on travel with this car that it is a real challenge. And we fought some things there in practice. We actually got behind in practice too, that we had a radio issue to start practice. So wasn't the best start to our day that we were hoping for, but I was having fun out there anyway. I love shifting and the gears and turning right, turning left, and this is a fun track, especially when the car's right.
Of course, you've got something that I would imagine takes some of the edge away. That's a gigantic point lead, and pretty much all you need to do is start the rest of the races in the regular season, and you're guaranteed a spot in the chase. I read something recently, you saying that this big point lead allows you to take some more risks, gamble. What type of risks can you take here in the next 5 races?
Well, I can tell you there's not too many advantages of having a big points lead, so we got to find the ones that there are, and I guess that is just it, that if you have a points lead at this point in the season, then you got to go searching for what's going to make you, competitive and a threat for the championship in those final 10. And while we don't have any road courses, I think we're just kind of just trying some things. We know we can gamble a little bit more than some other guys. That might come down to pit strategy. It might come in the setup. Who knows, how it might follow from here on out. But if it makes us better when we get in the chase, then we're going to try to take advantage of it.
Of course, you're in a safe position, but, this time of year, we're focusing on the bubble. There's some guys right now that are feeling a lot of pressure. You were there once, 2005. You felt that pressure. What do you think guys like Kurt Busch, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Martin Truex Jr., what do you think they're going through right now?
It's stressful. It's such a big deal to be in that chase. And you know that if you just make it in, you got a shot at the championship. You can kind of start your season all over, regroup. And, for those guys trying to get in the top 35 in points and those guys trying to get in the chase, you know, it's extremely stressful. And, you know, you get momentum and you try to take advantage of it. And that's the one thing that I think that we didn't have when we were out of it that year. We just weren't performing. Not only did we have things not really going our way, but we lost some things in our performance, and so it was hard to build the confidence and build the momentum, and we lost it. You know, we just didn't have what it took. So I look at a guy like Kurt Busch, you know, who's running strong with you know, some momentum on his side, as a guy that's got a little bit of an edge right now. But those DEI cars, they've been really strong this year, especially with the car tomorrow. And so who knows? It's going to be interesting to watch.
That's pretty good analysis. We might have a job for you in the booth. You know, you have been.
I watch things too, you know.
And you do a nice job. Certainly a future career for you. I know that's a ways down the road, but you've been performing pretty well behind the wheel this year. 4 victories, 5 poles, but you've been urging your team not to get complacent. Where do you guys think you can still improve?
Well, you know, because we do have a large points lead, you know, you just can't rest. You know, you can't you can't take that for granted, and especially with this point system, the way the point system is, once all those points are washed away and we're pretty much even, maybe even with our bonus points, it's still really anybody's game. You know, that's when we got to be at our best, and I think everything we're doing right now up to this point in the season is to prepare us for how strong we can be in those final 10. I'm so proud of this DuPont Chevrolet team. We've been very strong, very consistent this year. We've been winning races, but I want to get back in the winner's circle, you know, before we go in that chase. I think we're capable of doing that, and that's important because it carries momentum, confidence, all those things that it takes, I think, to be well prepared for those final 10.
And certainly, Doc, it's an opportunity for him to get back to victory lane this weekend. After all, he is the all-time road course king.
Yeah, no doubt about it. He would like to be able to get his 10th road course victory, but how about his 5th win of the season? What a great beginning to 2007. Jeff Gordon has had his first win of the year coming at the Jewel in the Desert, the 1 Mile Phoenix International Raceway. As Gordon just absolutely punished the field there. And, of course, celebrated a tribute to Dale Earnhardt when he tied Earnhardt's all-time win record, 7th overall. Then the NASCAR Nextel Cup event at Talladega. Huge celebration as Jeff Gordon was able to pass Dale Earnhardt to become the lone 7th all-time winner in NASCAR Nextel Cup history. Darlington Raceway, the track too tough to tame, win number 3 for Jeff Gordon. And, of course, back in June of this year, as the rains moved in, this was the battle to the checkered flag. They didn't know it at the time, but it was Jeff, Ryan Newman, by the way, who held off in second spot as Jeff Gordon won that one. His 4th win of the year. Hendrick Motorsports won 10 of the first 14 events on the year. They have won 5 of the 8 Car of Tomorrow events. Impressive performance by Hendrick Motorsports early in the year, and you wonder how one team can be this dominant early in the season, just coming right out of the box.
Tell you what, they just really got their rhythm going. They really do. The cars are handling well, and you know, a little while ago I heard Jeff talking about the differences in the car. Andy, you and I were looking at each other. What are the big differences? Because, you know, I really think they're prepared with this car tomorrow, Jerry. I think that's been really good for them and why they're running so good. But there are some big differences, Andy.
Yeah, we heard Jeff talking about how different these cars are to drive, especially getting into the corner on the brakes and the way they corner. These cars are so much different than the car that they've been used to running all over the place, but especially on road courses. The center of gravity on these cars is so much higher. The car's got a higher roof, it's got higher frame rails, and the cars don't travel like the old cars did. These old cars, we would travel them down 5-6 inches further down than what they go through inspection, and now they're just they're only able to travel as much as that front splitter will let them, which is basically 4 inches. So they've taken a lot of travel away from them. Holds the car a lot higher, so you get a lot more weight transfer, especially getting into these turns on the brakes, and that's why you see the inside front wheel will actually slide on the car. So you see when they go into the corner, if they're making a right-hander, that right front wheel will slide getting into the corner because you're taking so much weight up off of it, and that's why these cars are so much more difficult to drive.
And one thing also, I should add on that also, Jerry, is that the cars have got offset in them last year. This year they're pretty square up, meaning the A-frames on the right, A-frames on the left. they're the same distance. Well, the car last year, almost everything was built to the right-hand side because this is primarily right-hand turns here at this particular road course.
Yeah, we had a lot more leeway. The way we could build these cars, like Rusty said, we'd build them, we'd offset them one way for circle track racing, we'd offset them the other way to run road course racing. Now, NASCAR says you run them just like this everywhere we go, and you really don't have any leeway. It's like I said, they sucked all the fun out of it for a crew chief because we can't go in there and do all the little tricks that we always would do for road course racing.
They took the gray area away. Well, you better get used to it because this is the 9th race of the year. They will run 16 for the car of tomorrow, and next year they'll run them all. 49 drivers waiting to go out to qualify. When we come back, we'll visit with one of the rising young stars, Paul Menard, back at Watkins Glen in just a moment.
I'm Reagan Smith. I'm going to get a chance to jump with the Army Golden Knights and parachute out of a plane.
I'm excited, man. Mike's going to make sure we get to the ground nice and safe here.
You're nervous? All right. There you go.
You guys are insane.
And Reagan Smith, the not-so-insane driver of the 01 car, who claims that jumping out of an airplane is a crazy thing to do, yet you went and did that. Fun stuff, huh?
It was a lot of fun, yeah. It looked a little better on TV than what it actually was. I was pretty scared there, but it was a lot of fun to go jump with the Golden Knights, and those guys were pretty cool.
Reagan Smith, of course, driver of the 01 part-time this year with Mark Martin. And now things have had a big shake-up in your life. We're happy to see you back in the car again. Can you talk a little bit about what the plans are for you from this point forward with this new team or elsewise?
Well, I mean, for the immediate future, I think be racing here this weekend, and outside of that, I don't really know yet. We're working on all that stuff, and then it's you know, with the merger, there was a lot of stuff that had to be figured out, and you know, as we go on, we're trying to figure all that stuff out, and a lot of good people working hard at making sure things turn out well for everybody. So just you know, all I know right now is I'm in the car at Watkins Glen this weekend. I'm going to do everything I can to give the U.S. Army Chevy a good run this weekend, and just happy to be back working with all these guys. It's a lot of fun working with them.
Yeah, it seems like it's kind of a tough time for you as a driver, because we were talking about the crew guys earlier, and a lot of them are finding work. There are places for them to go, but there are a lot more of them, let's say spots for guys like them, than there are spots for top-level drivers. So does that make it that much tougher for you?
You know, I don't know. It's I guess the timing is the only thing that's tough in the middle of the season. That's a little bit awkward, but you know, the toughest part for me was going from thinking, you know, one week you're full-time on the Cup circuit to the next week, man, what am I going to be doing? You know, I didn't know what I was going to be doing from week to week, but I was fortunate. I got to hop in the truck at Indy, got to get back in the Army Chevy here this weekend, and then you know, probably just do a lot of different things throughout the course of this year and see how things play out. And you know, it's at that point, all you can do is whenever you get an opportunity, you make the most of it and try to run as well as you can.
Another good thing for 2008 is that the plan this year for you has been to be in the car of tomorrow. I think Talladega was the only race where you were in the current car, so that works well for you. All of the races are going to be run next year in the COT, and most of your experience this year is in it.
Yeah, that's been really good. You know, I've gotten to feel a lot of different things with the COT and gotten to do some testing with it and different things, and you know, got to go testing with the one guys a couple weeks back there and felt some different things there, and felt, you know, I've gotten a lot of experience in the COT, so that's been really good for me. And going forward, you know, that's what you need to know is the COT. That's what we're I almost, it's not the car tomorrow anymore. That's our race cars, you know, pretty much starting the rest of the year and next year.
All right, let's talk about today. You got in the car this morning for an hour on the black the entire time?
Yeah, technically, yeah.
Maybe two wheels off here or there?
Oh, no, I was on the black the whole time. It was just, luckily for me, down in turn 1 down there, they paved it. So so when I went off down there, I was still on the black, yeah. But car was pretty good. I mean, I was happy with it in race trim. It was turning good. It was doing things that I wanted it to do in race trim. We never got a qualifying run in, so, you know, don't fully know what we got there. It started raining a little bit too hard, and it was just enough to where you didn't really want to risk it and stay out there. So, you know, we'll see what we got here in qualifying trim. Hopefully in a little while, if it lets up, I think if we can pick up some time and get somewhere in the top 15, I'd be happy with that.
All right, Reagan Smith, a native of New York State, in the 01 car again this weekend. Good to see him back in his home state and driving in an Nextel Cup car. Mike?
Well, Dave, anytime the Nextel Cup Series rumbles through the Finger Lakes region of Watkins Glen, there's a fanatical following for Boris Said. You're looking at the Said heads, if you will. Yes, those are wigs. Those aren't their real heads of hair. This, though, is really his real head of hair. This is Boris Said, and always a fan favorite here at Watkins Glen. What do you think of those fans?
I mean, they have a great time, especially in this weather. They're still out there hooping and hollering. So, you know, hopefully it won't rain. If not, I'm going to be up there with them watching on Sunday.
You certainly know something about rain earlier this year in July in Daytona. You were on the pole when rain washed out qualifying. What's it like coming to a track like this where you know you have a legitimate shot, not only at qualifying, but at winning the pole, and then it starts to rain?
Well, I mean, Daytona was a heartbreaker. It was just disappointing. And coming here, I mean, twice I've been sent home because it's rained, and it's just a nerve-wracking day. I mean, it's bad enough you're a go or go-home guy, and you got to worry about not making a mistake, just getting that lap in. But when you throw the weather in like this, it's just even worse. So, you know, hopefully we can just get through this day, get our Sobe No Free Energy Drink car in the show, and then Valvoline, and then worry about the weekend.
Now, last weekend you had an interesting weekend, raced in Montreal, and then we saw you in another race away from the racetrack, going to the X Games. What were you doing there?
I mean, I did the rally event there, and I've never done anything like that before, and I missed all the practice, and when I got there in the morning, they gave me one lap of practice, so I got beat in the first round, but it was still a pretty cool experience to be part of the X Games, and to jump a car 70 feet ramp to ramp was pretty wild.
Yeah, I'd say wild is a good way to describe it, that's for sure. It looks like the weather's breaking. There may be some reason for optimism. The jet dryer is starting to go by right now. It feels a little bit drier. You may have an opportunity here. Although, we saw your name on the entry list a little late this week. Why so late?
Well, originally, you know, I was trying to look at the rules, and I didn't want what happened at Daytona to happen here, so I got with Ray Evernham, who was looking to get some points for the 10 car, and Jim Rocco from Valvoline was actually going to enter the car, but he was going to enter my Ford Fusion with the number 10 on it, and in the event that it rained, I would have got in the show, and Ray Evernham would have got all the points for Scott Riggs, so it was a win-win for all of us, but unfortunately, somebody at Dodge put the kibosh on it. They didn't like the fact that Jim Rocco was going to enter a Ford, I guess, so it you know, all fell apart at the last minute, and now here we are. But got a really good car, and we still have Valvoline on our car and Stanley Tools, and you know, hopefully we can get this Sobe No Free Energy Drink car in the show today. Wherever, I don't care if I'm 43rd, I'll be happy like a win as long as we can race Sunday.
Well, Doc, as you can see, Boris Said looks pretty relaxed, but believe me, there's a little bit of tension. He wants things to dry up so he can get out there.
Thank you, Mike. Boris Said, and pretty fast company when it comes to guys who can get it done on road courses, driving a Nextel Cup car. You see these guys, P.J. Jones, who'll be in the racing this weekend. Ron Fellows, no poles, top 10s. Fellows, by the way, 5 wins here, 3 in a Busch car, 2 in a NASCAR Craftsman truck. These guys trying to get it done this weekend here in the NASCAR Nextel Cup Series. And speaking of getting it done this weekend, it is our pleasure to welcome impressive rookie driver Paul Menard. Glad to have you with us, Paul, here this weekend at Watkins Glen. Now, what kind of car did you have out for qualifying coming up later today?
I think our car is pretty good, actually. You know, it's the COT. We kind of came in not knowing how it was going to act on the higher speed road course like Watkins Glen is. Pretty happy with it. Drove real solid. We made one qualifying run right at the end to try to get a good lap, and it started raining on us, so I didn't probably push it as hard as I needed to, but I think we can qualify probably top 15, and if we just keep all 4 tires on the pavement, come out with a solid finish, I'll be happy.
People may not realize the first time you came here in a NASCAR Nextel Cup car in 2003, you had an owner that really taught you a lot about road racing. Who was that guy?
This guy right here. He taught me a lot about racing in general, and man, those were fun times back then. We low pressure, we just go out and race, and made the race here by the skin of our teeth.
Might have been low pressure for you.
I was having fun. I was learning.
For me.
I had excuses.
Yeah, we had to try to get that car in. We went to Sears Point, or to Infineon, and tried to make that race out there, and we didn't make it, but we came here and made this race, and it was a lot of fun. We actually, like you said, led the race and had a lot of fun. And it was great to be involved in your first Cup start.
Yeah, it was cool, and it doesn't seem like it was 4 years ago. You know, time goes by fast, but obviously first Cup race, and I'm going to remember that for the rest of my life.
Do you remember what kind of hauler we had? We had a problem with our hauler.
Yeah.
It broke down coming up, and actually we crashed it. It got in a wreck, so we couldn't use it. And so it was down the road about a few hours down the road, and we had to bring some parts and pieces in a rental car. And we are actually working out of the back of a rental car in the garage area.
Hey, whatever it takes,
They brought it up on a rollback, and we were out there basically working out of the back of a rental car in the garage area, and we made the race here.
And you still got a top 30 finish.
Yeah, I walked in the garage that morning, and I'm like, where's the hauler? Well, it's in Pennsylvania in pieces.
Hey, Paul, a lot of the drivers out there are complaining about getting into the corner, especially turn 1, the inner loop, stuff like that. And we saw several of them slide off, wheel hop. Do you notice a big difference between this car and last year's car the way it drives in this course?
It's probably more, it wants to wheel hop more than the last year's car did, I believe. I found that it put more rear brake in. It kind of doesn't make sense. You put more rear brake and it kind of helps the wheel hop, but that's kind of what I found helps. And I just don't think you can drive it in as deep as last year's car. You just have to take what the car will give you and just throttle up that much earlier.
And you're also running a Busch car here. Is there a lot of different? I know there's a lot of differences in the way the cars are geared and the way that they're actually running a different tire on the Busch car than they are the Cup car.
The tire feels pretty similar. I guess it's an inch taller, different sidewall, same compound. It's pretty fast. I mean, you see some Busch times that are faster than the Cup cars. The Busch car is just a different animal, though. I mean, it's got a lot less power. When I was running the Busch series, I thought I had a ton of power. Then you come over and run some Cup races, and you go back to the Busch car, and you're wanting 5th gear. And I think that translates to a slower lap time ultimately here. But just it wants different things. It's a little bit. I found that it's a little bit tighter race car because you have the side force holding you with the Busch car. We don't really have that with the COT. Just trying to get all the kinks worked out of it.
Well, you get out of the Busch car. That's the last thing you drove on the racetrack, and then you're getting ready to go out there and qualify in the Cup car. Is there a lot of different shift points, or are they similar?
Brake points are a lot different. I think the shift points are pretty simple. I mean, you still go down to the same gears getting into the corner as you do with the Cup car. You just brake a lot deeper with the Busch car. I've got my marks picked out for my Cup car, and I've got my marks picked out for the Busch car, so hopefully I just don't forget them.
To make sure you get the right notes stuck up on the dash.
Yeah.
Paul, we just talked to Reagan Smith a moment ago, the 01 car, and now with the merger of Ginn and Dale Earnhardt Incorporated, you guys are going to have Mark Martin in the fold. What impact could Mark Martin, or has he already had, as far as being able to be over there at DEI?
Yeah, I mean, Mark's just an awesome guy. He's grew up watching him and Dale Earnhardt and Rusty, and those guys just compete week in, week out so hard. And now to be driving at Dale Earnhardt Incorporated with Mark Martin as a teammate, it's pretty awesome. Mark's just an awesome guy, though. I mean, as soon as the merger happened, he was the first guy that called me to let me know that it happened. And we talked for a while, and we met in his motorhome a few times up in Indy, and talked on the phone several times. And he's just a all-around sincere guy that wants to help, and I'll be picking his brain to try to learn from him.
Well, learning from Mark Martin would be like learning jump shots from Michael Jordan. It's hard to find anybody better to teach you the ins and outs of running the oval tracks. Well, we have Paul Menard joining us here. A lot of changes going on this week, including the fact that Kyle Busch announced where he is going to Joe Gibbs Racing. We'll explore more of that and get set for Nextel Cup qualifying when we come back in just a moment. Welcome back to Watkins Glen International. We are standing by for NASCAR Nextel Cup Series pole qualifying. We've had a brief rain shower. Track drying continues. 49 cars will be lined up to go out to qualify for Sunday's NASCAR Nextel Cup at the Glen. 1 p.m. start. We'll have live flag-to-flag coverage on ESPN. Back inside our pit studio, along with Rusty Wallace and Andy Petrie, we are joined by rookie driver Paul Menard. And Paul, we were talking a little bit earlier about all the changes that have taken place in the NASCAR Nextel Cup Series this year. You lose a teammate in Dale Earnhardt Jr. leaving. No one would ever have figured that would have happened. And now Kyle Busch is leaving, and there was a lot of options as to where he might go, one of which was DEI.
Yeah, I know DEI has pursued Kyle Busch to come over and fill the 8 car. Whatever happened, I wasn't involved in any of that. I know I've talked to Kyle a few times, and he was just kind of weighing his options. But I mean, you got to do what's best for you. And if that wasn't the right situation for him, it wasn't the right situation for him. And I know everybody, Max and John, everybody DEI are still looking for somebody to fill the 8 car for next year.
Everyone thought that when Dale Earnhardt Jr. was going to walk away from DEI because he had made a very difficult decision. He talked about so many friends he had there, and the guys like yourself that are very close friends with him. Everyone said, well, maybe DEI is going to stub its toe and maybe sort of falter a little bit. That's not the case at all. In fact, the team, the entire organization seemed to get stronger in the weeks to come.
Yeah, obviously losing Dale Jr., who's the biggest driver in our sport, is a huge blow to the company, and I think Teresa realized that and figured that she had to step up and make some improvements and get some get some people in there that they'll kind of take the bull by the horns, and you see that with Max Siegel and John Story, and you know, actively pursuing the driver for the 8 car, and with the Ginn merger, and getting a lot of good people from Ginn. I mean, that's something that's not talked about, is the jobs that were saved by the Ginn merger, as opposed to just the company going away. A lot of good people over there to come and make DEI a better company.
Well, Paul, we know that you've got to get back out to your car. Even though you go sort of late, we are hearing the track is drying pretty quickly, which is good news. And by the way, you were the second quickest rookie here, which isn't bad considering the guy ahead of you in speed was Juan Pablo Montoya. So we look forward to a good qualifying run. Hey, thanks for coming in and visiting with us today.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Rookie Paul Menard joining us here on the set. Track drying continues. And talking about the experienced drivers on road courses, Ron Fellows has a very good record here at Watkins Glen. Yeah, he's a Trans Am champion, but in stock cars and the NASCAR Busch Series, he has won 3 times in 7 races. In fact, driving the 33 car, but Fellows has had a lot of success here driving for Joe Nemechek. The first win coming back in 1998, and the Canadians celebrated in style. In 2000, June of 2000, again the scenario repeats it. Underneath the bridge, he takes the checkered flag as a 2-time NASCAR Busch Series winner. And of course, July of 2001, the 3rd win for Ron Fellows, the Canadian here in the NASCAR Busch Series efforts. Let's head down to Mike Massaro.
And Doc, 5 total NASCAR wins in the Busch Series and Truck Series combined here at Watkins Glen for Ron Fellows. You were just watching your highlights there. What's it going to take to get a highlight of you winning an XTEL Cup race here?
Well, I shaved the mustache off, and that was bad. Ooh, that was a few years ago. A little more gray and a little less, no mustache. You know, I think this morning's practice we went pretty well. You know, the guys here have done a really good job for me. I feel pretty good. The little bit of uncertainty here is the condition of the racetrack, but you know, all the guys with the DLP and PAL have done a great job. We roll off the trailer, so to speak, and a bit of a cliche, but we were good right off the top. So yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about things.
At times, you've made it look really easy here in the Busch Series car. What's been the difference in the Cup Series car?
You know, I think it's just a competition. You know, these guys don't mess around. You know, the closest we came to winning was I got beat by Jeff Gordon. That's that's nothing to be ashamed of.
No shame there at all.
And then a couple of years ago, or 3 years ago, it was Tony Stewart.
Again, no shame.
Yeah, no, not at all. You know, these guys are regulars. They're very good, and you know, we're going to keep trying. But I mean, the cool thing is that you know, we get the opportunities, and you know, even at a part-time level, you can come in here and work hard with the guys and be competitive. And that's you know, any other form of you know, top-class racing, it's not going to happen.
One thing that you and everybody else in the field has to adapt to this week, as you did in Infineon, is the car of tomorrow. How does that change your driving style? How's it affect it?
I think you've got to be a little smoother with the car. You know, it's not that bad. You feel a lot more of the roll. You know, the car feels like it's a little heavier, the center of gravity a little bit higher. But you know, we're just trying to, you know, spend as much time working with Brandon and the guys to get them to where it's got some level of stability that allows me to drive it, you know, and provide them with information that, hey, this is what I needed to do for me. So that's you know, so far so good.
Well, good luck on Sunday afternoon. Good luck today trying to get this thing up there. You were very fast in practice, 3rd fastest on the speed chart in Friday's practice. Certainly one of the favorites if we get this qualifying session in, Doc.
Ron Fellows, one of the best on a road course in anything, and he's done extremely well in a stock car or a stock truck. As you heard, he has 5 wins here, 3 in the NASCAR Busch Series and 2 in the NASCAR Craftsman truck. These 2 drivers here standing by, we are told they may get picked up by one of the NASCAR officials to jump in the pace car and go see exactly what the track is doing. We told you one of the big stories of the week, Robbie Gordon, the fact that he didn't race at Pocono, but what he did after that. A special story. We'll visit with Robbie in just a moment. We welcome you back to Watkins Glen International Raceway. Here as the rains have moved in, now they've moved away. We are drying the track, moments away, hopefully from getting underway with NASCAR NXTEL Cup qualifying. In fact, here comes Buster Auten in the pace car to pick up Kenny Wallace and Jeff Gordon. They're going to ride around and see what the track looks like so we can get qualifying underway here at Watkins Glen. Speaking of road races, let's look back at what was a controversial finish for the NASCAR Busch Series on the road course at Montreal 1 week ago.
The NASCAR Busch Series rolls north of the border, the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve on this demanding 14-turn road course. Marcus Ambrose in search of his first career NASCAR Busch Series win. Robbie Gordon behind him. Big pile up down in turn 2.
Robbie Gordon to the inside with a lead.
Ambrose goes back on him. Who is leading the race? When did the caution come out? Where are they going to put Robbie Gordon?
We need to get behind the 30, or we're going to get black flag. Get black flag after the race. I'm staying here.
They are putting the black flag up for Robbie Gordon. And indeed, Gordon will hit Ambrose.
If you want to know my opinion, I won the race.
I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
We'll appeal it. We won this race.
Kevin Harvick wins here in Montreal.
What a bizarre finish.
Well, that's what happened at Montreal a week ago, and we're now honored to be joined by Robbie Gordon. We're going to ask you some... Robbie, now, obviously, they did black flag you, and everyone knows what happened, a $35,000 fine, and they parked you at Pocono last week. But take us back to those final couple laps at Montreal. From your perspective, what happened?
Well, I'll take you back just a lap or two before the incident there. I rode the whole race, just riding along, saved my brakes, never really pushed the car because I watched Montoya do that at Sonoma, and you find yourself sitting there in victory lane. So I just cruised in about, I don't know, what was it, 2 laps before that. I drove from 7th to 2nd and had probably the fastest car out there, which we feel was the fastest car out there. And on that. I guess it was a restart. They had the pile up where Kevin got into the 41 and they yellow flagged it. And, at that point I didn't really care if I was first or second. I mean, yeah, I put the move on Marcos going down into turn 3, and I was like, man, wonder if I got him before or after. And then he turned me because I slowed down for the caution, doing what we're supposed to do, slow down when a caution comes out. And he didn't see the caution, so obviously he was racing me hard before that point. And he said that he never saw the caution until after, he'd spun me, and then he realized, oh, man, caution was out. And really that right there is where it's still a little confusing even for me on how 13th position, because the field's supposed to be frozen. And if they go back to the last loop line, then I'd either be second. And, how you say it, I got it turned around. I could have backed up. I probably could have backed up and pulled in front of, like, the 4th place car and, backed it up. But I just let them all go by. It's like, all right, not a big deal because they're going to go back to where the field was frozen at. And first they came back and said I'm first, and they came back and said I'm second. And then we rode around. I mean, this is, these are 5-minute laps or something. So I rode around for 2 laps in 2nd place. And then coming to the green, they said, go behind the 33. And, still today, I think that was a bad call. I don't think I was ever supposed to be behind the 33.
Robbie, at that point, you probably thought, when you got spun by Ambrose, you thought, hey, I'm leading this race. The caution flag's out. I just got spun out under caution. I should be put back in the front because I just got spun out under the caution flag, right? So that's the part that you couldn't understand. Is that
That's the
right?
part I'm still having a hard time understanding today, even though we're a week later. Being spun out under the caution, it didn't hurt my car. I just got spun out. I got stuck up against the guardrail, which I just barely touched the guardrail, back up. I mean, my car was perfectly fine. The way, and I know NASCAR would never let this happen, but let's take hypothetical. If you're running 5th place, and what happened to me last weekend was the rules and was legal, this weekend I could be running 5th under the caution. 2 laps to go. I could wreck every guy in front of me under the caution, restart the race in first. Because it's under the caution, and they're just going to line up.
That's if they don't black flag you first.
Well, of course they're going to black flag me again. I mean, obviously that's what they're going to do. But the way the rules is written with what happens, because it can happen on ovals. I mean, especially a place like Bristol, caution comes out, the racetrack's so small, you check up to do what the right thing is, and you get spun out. Well, provided you don't hit the wall, it's just not that big of a deal.
Well, you and Marcus had a really good race going, and sounded like it was, you passed him fairly clean. There was a little bit of contact, but it was fairly clean.
Well,
and
actually,
then
I got into him. If you looked at his bumper at that point, which was kind of crazy, but we came around turn 1, and I was glued to him pretty good, and he got sideways a little bit, and I darted to the inside. And if you look at his bumper, I actually peeled the corner of the piece off to the right. If I would have plugged him in the right rear, it would have knocked it in. But instead, I was trying to get to the right of him to clear him so I could get next to him going down into turn 3.
Well, that's my point. You raced him fairly clean, and then, you know, he got up against you by your admission saying that you backed off the throttle.
I was off the throttle by that point. You know, after I made the right-hand turn, it's like I saw the caution. And, you know, I checked up off the throttle, and he was still, you know, going to do everything he could to outbrake me down into, let's call it, turn 5.
Well, I guess my question is why did you wreck Marcus when we went back green? Because it really, at that point, there was really no hard feelings between you two guys, right? I mean, was this just a frustration thing, or, I mean, you know, that's the only part that I had a question about. And I know that's not what the penalty came from, but that was just a question in my mind.
Oh, it's a scoreboard thing. And unfortunately, you live and die by the scoreboard.
All right, let's move forward to what happened this week. We know what happened in Montreal now, the penalty, the black flag. They parked you. You didn't get to arrive at Pocono. PJ drove your car there. What precipitated you calling Marcus, or you two guys talking, and you putting him in your other Cup car to give him a chance to make his Nextel Cup debut?
Well, let's start by hopefully this weather cooperates with us. It's been 2 years since I've been in a position as a driver or an owner now where I've got a car outside the top 35. And it's a nail-biter. I mean, you know, my guys worked really hard getting the car prepared for them. And I'll get into the story how this all happened, but, you know, they killed it on Tuesday. I mean, they didn't know we were going to run 2 cars until 9 o'clock Tuesday morning. By 3 o'clock on Wednesday, we had 2 Cup cars and a backup Cup car ready to come here so that we had a backup car to share in case one of us had an incident in practice. So my guys are the ones that really bailed me out of this deal by preparing some cars. But I'll get into the story about Marcos, and it's, you know, we were supposed to get together on Wednesday. Hey, let's get together for lunch. You know, he's kind of new to North Carolina. Haven't been there very long. I like the guy. I mean, I truly believe he's a very competitive driver. And so, you know, I called him around 6 o'clock and said, hey, you know, sorry about that, you know, last weekend. And I'm like, so does this mean we're not going to get together on Wednesday? And this was all before it. And he was a champ all the way through. I mean, every interview he did, he showed ultimate class. And I have a lot of respect for him. And, you know, I hung up that phone call, and it's like, man, what a good guy. You know, just truly, you know, like, yeah. I mean, he had me hooked. And, you know, I got an email on my way home that came across my phone, and, you know, somebody sent a random fan got through the spam and got to the got to my BlackBerry, and it said, hey, here's the deal. You need to run Marcos in the car, in your backup car. That's the least you could do. And it was like, it triggered, because on Monday morning, Marcus, which is a different Marcus from Camping World, he called me and said, I got to be on your car Monday. I got to be in your car at Watkins Glen. I got to be on the Busch car. I got to be on the Cup car. You know, won't Verizon or Jim Beam or somebody, you know, step off the car so I can be on? You know, we won the race last weekend, and I got to keep my Robbie Gordon, you know, flag going. And so I had to tell him on Monday, I don't have anything for you. 9:30 on Monday night, I called him after Marcus and said, I got a deal. How about if I put Ambrose in a second Cup car and you sponsor it? He's like, I'm in for that gig. Let's go. So, you know, through the night, Monday, by 9 o'clock Tuesday morning, deal was done. Tad, who he drives for in the Busch Series with the 59 team, you know, there was a lot of things that had to happen. It's just not as easy as saying, okay, let's just go race next weekend. You know, he had to get approval from his sponsors, his owner, and then, you know, those guys have been a champ too all the way through, and it just shows that we love to race out here, and I think a lot of people get confused and sometimes take us way too serious.
You know, I would think as a car owner, though, you know, you raced that guy last week pretty hard. I mean, you found out he can drive a road course. I mean, you're probably one of the best out there, Robbie, but the guy did a good job, too, out there in Montreal. And to put him in your second car was probably not a hard decision from a performance standpoint.
Well, putting him in, you know, basically I got to follow him for, let's call it 71 laps before that, and I watched what kind of a clinic he put on. He did a good job. I mean, he led the race. He was smooth. You know, he had a lot of car control. And putting him in the car was a no-brainer, because I felt I could bring him here if I give him what I have, and we qualified at Sonoma on the front row. You know, he'll make the show. Unfortunately, the way it works here, when you are back there, let's call it the 50th car, you know, he missed half a practice because he still hadn't cleared through the tech line, and you know, it's unfortunate for the small teams, because they just continue to pay a penalty because of where you're based on in points. You know, the first place in points car goes through tech first. They have more time to be prepared for it before practice, and you see it a lot of times on the weekends where the small teams that aren't, and it doesn't even have to be a small team. Let's call it a big team that decides to run a car. They pay a price getting out on the racetrack, and he missed, you know, 38 minutes of the practice session, so that's unfortunate. And it wasn't because we weren't ready. It's just because that's how long it took us to get through tech.
Speaking of emails, fans want to know right now, if both of you are accomplished road racers and you got good equipment, what happens if it comes down to the final couple laps here at Watkins Glen and say Marcus is leading and you're running second? Would there be any contact at all? Would you guys rub a little bit?
Well, I'd get on the radio. I'd say, hey, come on, it's my car. Let me pass. No, I mean, all joking aside, I hope it does come down to something like that. I believe that we have given him a car capable of performing. Unfortunately, he doesn't have as much time in that car as I do or some of these other guys that run Nextel Cup all the time. But obviously, he's a capable race car driver, and I hope it does come down to it. And, you saw with Jimmy and Jeff at Martinsville, I mean, they're teammates, and they're gonna rough each other up a bit, but hopefully both cars still cross the finish line.
Robbie, what's your opinion of the car tomorrow here at Watkins Glen versus last year's car? We asked the same question to Paul Menard, and he said it just seems like it wheel hops a lot. He can't get it under control, but what's your opinion of this car?
Well, one thing about the car tomorrow that's no secret is it has about half the downforce of the cars that we raced a year ago. It just doesn't have the downforce, so it's light. Another thing that I struggle with, and I'm sure some of the other drivers do, but the tail offset is to the right. So we really pay a big price heading up over the top of the hill where you, what would I call it, the turn 4, is it turn 4 at the top of the hill, turn 5 at the top of the hill? You pay a big price because you don't have the side force there. So as you're going up the top of the hill, I mean, it's light. You try to stay wide open, but it's light, and you're just feathering it over the top of the hill on through the fast S's.
Well, our guest is a former Watkins Glen Nextel Cup winner and, of course, accomplished road racer, Robbie Gordon. We'll have more of Robbie when we come back as we are waiting for NASCAR Nextel Cup qualifying to get underway here at Watkins Glen. Hopefully, we'll just be moments away from getting these cars qualified. Back in just a moment. There have been some great moments for Robbie Gordon over the years, but none any better than right here at Watkins Glen. August 10th, 2003. He started back at 14th spot, but drove the Richard Childress Chevrolet to the front and stayed there. And Robbie Gordon takes the checkered flag for his third career NASCAR Nextel Cup win right here at Watkins Glen International Raceway. Robbie, you got to have great memories of that day.
That was a good win, and we've been in position a couple times to win since then, and we always come up second, third, or fourth. I think we've learned from some of the mistakes we made in the past, and hopefully this weekend will be an opportunity to capitalize again.
A lot of speculation this week from some of the folks at Ford. Articles in the USA Today about maybe you going to a two-car team, running two cars here for Marcus Ambrose. What are your thoughts about maybe expanding your operation?
Well, I think if you read everything, you got to be a merger, you got to do this, you got to do that. Well, I believe that's true because you share so much more information. The information that you can gather having a teammate on the weekend where you could share tire pressures, what you're doing. One guy can work on qualifying, one guy can work on the race setup, and you'd have even more things you could share on oval racing than road courses. So obviously having Marcos in a second car here is an advantage, but if we could do it week in and week out, I think we could learn more and we could complement each other.
Speaking of accomplished road course racers, the guy who drove his car last week, P.J. Jones, standing by in the garage area.
And Doc, he is now talking with Brian Vickers, both of whom are trying to qualify into this show, so I'm just going to drop the microphone in here and listen. No. Wow. Seriously, what were you telling Brian about what he needs to do with his race car?
Well, race car, it wasn't race car, it was rhinos. We're into these Yamaha rhinos out in Arizona, and I've taken him on a couple little trips, and he likes it, and I was telling him he needs to get one. So.
And how did you do?
I thought I did fine. I didn't wreck, did I? No, didn't hit nothing. And we go on these little 60, 80 mile day trips, and it's kind of fun. Yeah. It was a blast. It was the first time I went out with him. It was the very first time I'd ever been in the desert, and it was an awesome experience, and we had a great time. I don't have a rhino yet because he lives in Phoenix, and my two places between North Carolina and New York City. I don't know if they're quite Charlotte downtown and New York. Something about rhinos. I don't know if they're quite legal in Manhattan. I don't know. I need to look into that.
Quads in Times Square. I'm not sure that's going to be something that they really want to see around there. Okay, let's talk a little road racing here. Last week you get back in a Cup car, kind of a surprise entry into that. This one, Michael Waltrip Racing needs you to put this car in the show. So this is a more purposeful weekend for you.
Yeah, first of all, I want to say hi to my wife and kids, Jagger and Jace, because I haven't been home in 3 weeks because Robbie's been keeping me quite busy. So, last week it was fun. I was hoping for a Busch suspension for Robbie this weekend, though, so I would get to drive that car. I already was committed over here, but I thought, man, maybe they'll suspend him for the Busch race. And
you can say that because you're his friend.
Yeah. So, I've been doing some testing with him and did some Daytona stuff earlier in the year, did Milwaukee, and did that deal at Dover, and just been trying to, for me it's great because I get to drive the COT cars, and You know, last week I was there at Pocono already running happy hour, so, you know, slid in the seat. Wish we would have had a better performance. We struggled through the race, just we're really loose. So we're going to go to Nashville and see if we can't fix them up a little bit better for Michigan.
Okay, now just so you know, I'm going to let you think about this while I ask Vickers a question here. He was listening the entire time, still in studio, so you can dwell on that. Brian, you've got to get your car in the show. How was it this morning? And I know you're hoping for it to dry up here.
It was pretty good, actually. You know, we made a lot of gains on our cars from Sonoma to here. We were not where we needed to be at Sonoma, but yeah, I think we were like 13th overall, which is unbelievable. I think we were 5th or 6th at go homers and 13th overall. I mean, it's crazy, the qualifying these days. But I was really happy with the car. And the last time I went out to make a qualifying run, it started raining. So, you know, I don't really know where we're going to be. I think we can be better than we were in practice, our best time in practice. But we'll see. You know, luckily we'll be in either way, whether it rains or not. And you know, I love road course racing. I love to qualify, and it's all fun. But it's hard to turn down a gimme. You know what I mean? It wouldn't offend me either if it rains. So I think we'll fine either way.
All right, PJ, you've had moments to ponder. Robbie's going to get equal time here in a second. Any last words?
Well, rain or, you know, we're fast. We're 8th. I thought we probably could have been first in practice if if I just, you know, sucked it up a little bit more. But like Brian says, you know, I don't think it hurt any of our feelings if it rained out, even though we were second go homers. But it's tough. I mean, hey, you go out there 10 turns, make one mistake, and you're going home. So, you know, we'll just, you know, we can only do what the weather does, and we'll go out there and try our best.
All right, and studio, apparently, Robbie, he's not backpedaling from anything he said, so the floor is yours.
Yeah, he was quite interested in driving the Busch car this weekend because that Busch car has finished second here the last 2 times it's raced. So, you know, PJ is a good friend of mine. Obviously, we have been using him a lot for testing. You know, we try to run as much as we can to learn about the COT, and he has been getting some seat time. So, you know, I expect good things out of PJ this weekend.
He looks like he wants to get a ride no matter what it takes.
Yeah, I mean, he was probably up there, you know, in the hauler saying, take him out of the Busch car, take him out of the Busch car.
He wants you to go down, doesn't he?
Yeah,
He wants you to be penalized because he wants that ride, man.
Yeah, tell you what kind of friend he is, huh? No, I think what it shows is all of us just love to race, and we like to compete. And, you know, PJ's a racer as well, and he wants the opportunity to go out there and showcase what his skills are. And obviously my road race Busch cars are pretty good.
Speaking of rhinos, I mean, you drive anything. You build cars, you build off-road equipment, and you drive things in the Baja. Now, I read an article this week about you're already getting ready to ship stuff to for the Dakar Rally or whatever. What's it like going over there and racing through Africa and Europe and the Straits of Gibraltar? I mean, that's got to be wild.
It's really wild because what it takes you to be prepared, and that's the part I like about it is, yeah, we've already started about 2 months ago. We started preparing for the Dakar Rally, where I raced last year. We finished 8th overall. We won a special. We were the first American team ever to win a special. There's been manufacturers that have gone there and participated in the past and haven't won specials. So having Hummer on board with us like we do, it's a factory program where their engineers participate with us, and we try to build a car that can outrun everybody and outlast everybody through the African deserts.
Is there anything with the wheel you don't drive?
I just love to race, and I think the USA Today article explained that. I mean, I just wake up for this stuff every day, and it doesn't matter if it's the Nextel Cup car or the Baja truck that we race.
Robbie Gordon, our guest here in the studio. We're waiting for NASCAR Nextel Cup qualifying to get underway here as the track is almost dry. And speaking of great runs, how about the great year a year ago that Rookie of the Year Denny Hamlin had, and following up with a very good sophomore season, currently second in the points. Already has a win this year, that coming at New Hampshire earlier in the year. He's standing by with Mike Massaro.
And, Doc, this may be only his second visit to Watkins Glen, but not looking at all like he's inexperienced here. At the top of the speed chart in practice this morning, looks like you have a very good race car.
Yeah, definitely. The entire Gibbs crew did a great job preparing the car for me, and it's FedEx Ground Chevrolet has been really good right off the truck. So, you know, we felt pretty good in race trim. We felt like we turned some good laps, and we went to qualifying trim, and it was even better. So, pretty fortunate, to get to drive this thing this weekend.
It seems as though if we do get qualifying in, you'll have a pretty good lap, but if we don't, you'll start right up toward the front. Does it matter to you if we get qualifying in today?
I would like to qualify just for the fact that I'd like to see what I can do here. Either way, we're going to be, I think, okay. There's a couple guys, coming from that Busch car, it's going to be really tough to turn a good lap here because, I'm thinking about all my braking points, and I never seem to go by a sign or anything. I always go by feel, so it's going to be tough to really get that down in one lap.
How much different is that? How much of an adjustment is it for you to jump from the Busch car to the car of tomorrow, especially at a place like this?
Well, it's a big jump, especially somewhere like here where the braking points are quite a bit different. You can't hustle this car into the corner. And like I say, I go by feel, not, in vision versus really going off a sign that you pass by. So that makes it a little bit tougher to really hit your marks on a qualifying lap. But I feel like it kind of makes me better when it comes to race trim.
The regular season is winding down. Certainly looks like you're in a very good position heading into the chase, but you only have one victory so far. And with the new seeding process, that may not put you toward the top of the chart. Does that change things? Does that affect the way you approach these next 5 races going for wins?
We've really been gearing up for it ever since the first Pocono race, trying to get wins because we felt like we were, fairly comfortable. We're still in that kind of mode now where, we've done some things to the car this weekend that to maybe help us sneak a win out of here. But it seems like our performance is good enough we may be able to win it outright. So, who knows? We won't know till Saturday's practice of how good we really are in race trim. But, we're doing things and bringing our cars to the racetrack, trying to gamble on wins. We're doing all we can, but things don't always line up for you. And, Indy was a prime example of that, and Pocono, just mechanical trouble. So, we're trying all we can do, but just can't get a win, it seems like.
Well, we'll have to wait and see, Doc. Denny Hamlin certainly one of the guys to watch for on Sunday.
Mike, he did get a win back on July 1st at New Hampshire International Speedway. Could have been an omen because the 11 car started 11th that day, but he had to hold on in the final laps in front of Jeff Gordon to take his 3rd career win. Back July 1st, New Hampshire International Raceway, and Denny Hamlin gets his first win of 2007. Back at Watkins Glen International, NASCAR Nextel Cup cars lined up. The rains have moved away. Track drying is continuing, and we are getting closer and closer, we are being told, to rolling these cars. There are 49 cars that will line up to qualify. And guess who is the 49th and last car that'll get to go out to qualify? It's Robbie Gordon, the guy's been our guest here for the last half hour or so. Robbie, you got to wait all afternoon to be able to finally get those laps in to try to get that car in the field.
Yeah, normally when it's a hot day, which I don't think there'll be much of an advantage today, but if it was a hot day, that would be a great draw. And we worked on our car, the Jim Beam Ford Fusion, in practice in race trim most of the time. We never made a qualifying run. You'll look and see it. I think we ended up 23rd or something like that, and we never got an opportunity to make a run, just because we were so focused on the race on Sunday. And we'll see what it does in qualifying. Should be interesting.
Hey, Rob, you and I were talking about a month or so ago about being scared on the racetrack and being scared in different situations. And you told me, man, there was one situation you had, and I think you told me it was in Mauritania. I don't know where that's at, but you said that was one fearful night.
Yeah, it was in the Dakar Rally, which we were talking about earlier. 2 years ago, we broke down in Mauritania. I came over a big sand dune and stuffed it. Just lawn darted the thing into an sand embankment. It broke the radiators out of it, poked holes in them. So we were camping there. We got the truck to where we could at least be on level ground, but we spent the night there, and that was probably the most, or for sure, the scariest night I have ever spent in the desert. I have spent the nights in the desert down in Baja and stuff like that, but my Spanish is decent. I can get by, but in Mauritania, the language barrier is so far apart, and Mauritania was a country that sent troops. I think they sent 50,000 troops to Saddam and his group. So, I mean, obviously I was very nervous that night.
Because they knew you were one of the only Americans out there in the desert. You were fearing for your life, thinking they're going to come after you. Is that right?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's probably the closest thing I could ever feel like to being in the military. The guys that got to be out there in the field, supporting our country the way we do. I mean, that's the only way I could relate to them, and probably the closest ever to.
Well, that makes worrying about where you start in a NASCAR Nextel Cup race seem pretty trivial, pretty minimal.
Yeah, today's race, no matter where we start, I'm confident we're going to be right there in the thick of things come down to the last 5 laps to win the race. So, obviously qualifying is important because it gives you a pit position and it gives you a couple other things. But I've come from the back so many times here and still finished up in the top 3.
And speaking of having good finishes, the guy who's going to be our next guest a moment on pit road had a great run at Michigan back early in the spring. Carl Edwards, who currently leads the NASCAR Busch Series points, logged his first win of the year at Michigan, driving the big Office Depot Ford Fusion for Roush Fenway. Always love to get the win there in front of the manufacturers who are just nearby in the Motor City of Detroit. Mike?
And there's a bit of contrast when it comes to the hairstyles here on pit road. Carl Edwards, a new buzz cut, sitting next to Boris Said. Were you trying to get some tips on hairstyles here?
Yeah, Boris said I used the Floby, but no, I just got tired of the long hair. But I'm noticing that the Boris hair is really popular here in Watkins Glen. They're screaming, "Who said?" Boris said, and all they're giving me is a thumbs up.
Speaking of thumbs, you had your first test with your dislocated thumb on a road course last week in Montreal. You know what to expect. What is that coming into this weekend? 2 races with that dislocated thumb here on this tricky road course.
It's really, not really an issue. They made a nice little T-handle shifter for me, McElwain and the guys, and we've got, that's really the least of my worries. I put that Busch car in the fence, our Dish Network car, in practice, and just hard enough to have to go to a backup. But I think the shifting is actually going to be pretty good. As long as I can keep it on the pavement, we'll be set.
What did happen in that Busch incident?
I just got loose back to the left up through the S's, and I never really got, never turned around or whatever, just got loose and chased it up to the fence and hit it, and it was just hard enough to tear it up bad. And I feel bad. The guys built a brand new car. It was a really nice one all the way down to the shifter. Everything was really nice. But the backup car, we ran pretty well in Mexico with it once, and it should be good.
Practice affected by this rain as we sit here and wait out this rain delay. How did it affect the way you attacked practice this morning?
Well, we were headed out of the garage to make our mock qualifying run with our Office Depot Fusion, and they turned us around and headed us back. But this is, Jamie McMurray was so fast, and this is one of those instances where we can really rely on his notes and what they did. And the guys that this rain's really going to affect are guys like Boris. If it rains this thing out, that's going to be really bad that some of them miss the show. I hope we get it in.
5 races remaining in the regular season. How do you see things unfolding here as we head toward the chase for you?
Well, for us with this Office Depot team, what we've got to do is just, we can't keep having these bad races. We ran really poorly at Indianapolis and at Pocono, had some bad luck. I mean, we've got 280-point cushion or something, but we don't need that to get any smaller. You don't want to head into Richmond with anything other than a guaranteed spot in the chase.
We just saw a moment ago your highlight of victory in Michigan. At that stage of the season, it seemed like you guys were hitting your stride, but things have gone in the other direction now. How would you describe the way your season has unfolded?
Well, so far the season's been great, and yeah, there for about 6 weeks, it felt like we had a winning car every week, and it's just been the last 2 weeks, Indy and Pocono, that have been a struggle, but I think we'll turn it around, and we've got a great team. We just, we have to get a little bit better on pit road, and we have to be able to, to compete for these wins at these big tracks like Indy and Pocono, but now we're getting into a stretch here with some, different tracks, short tracks, this road course, and, everybody knows if you can make it into the chase and you can start right there fresh, everybody's on equal ground. You never know what'll happen.
Look at the sky. It's starting to rain again. What's this like for you, knowing that you have a pretty decent car, thinking you have a pretty decent car, but, qualifying does not look like it's going to happen anytime soon?
Well, to be honest with you, the last lap I ran was in the Busch car, and I had it against a fence. And if it rains...
maybe I take that back then.
If it rains this thing out, I start 6th in the Cup race. So, I would like to get a couple laps on it, and I definitely want it to be, I want Boris and those guys to get in. But if it rains, we'll be in the 3rd row.
Yeah, that wouldn't be bad for this guy, Doc. He would start 6th. And, I think there's some guys out here who are praying for rain, and others, obviously, who would wish it would go away.
Carl Edwards, NASCAR Nextel Cup Series this season, 21 events. 6th overall in the points, so solidly in the chase at this point with 5 events to go in the chase. 1 win this year, 5 top 5s. Back in just a moment. Back at Watkins Glen International Raceway, rain's beginning to move back in. You see umbrellas now being put up on pit road. While Indy 500 champion Dario Franchitti and the red-hot Scott Dixon are in a fierce battle atop the standings. And after a wild ride at Michigan, can one of these drivers break away under the lights at Kentucky? The Kentucky IndyCar 300 on ESPN 2 tomorrow at 6:30 Eastern Time. Indy Racing League action coming your way tomorrow night. And we have just gotten news a moment ago that because the rains are moving back in and we were continuing to dry the track, they have canceled NASCAR Nextel Cup qualifying. So they will line up according to owners' points, and that is not really good news for our next guest. We were going to welcome in Marcus Ambrose from Australia. Marcus, who had the big opportunity this week after the disappointment a week ago as a co-driver and teammate for Robbie Gordon. And Marcus, sorry to give you the news as you sat down here that the qualifying will not take place, and that means that you're going to have to wait for the future for an XL Cup debut.
You can't beat the weather, so no point getting disappointed. I've got to thank Robbie, for giving me this chance anyway. We've had a media frenzy all week on this whole deal. He's been a great sport. If he could wind the clock back from last weekend, I'm sure he would do things different today. But, he's bounced back well. He's given me a chance, and I've got a lot to thank him for. And if he thinks it's squared up yet, I'm not too sure it is on the racetrack. I can't wait to race him again out there and get stuck into it and have a good, fair race. There's 2 hard road races going at it last week, and I look forward to having the 2 of us race each other that hard again.
You were within a lap at Montreal of winning your very first NASCAR Busch Series race, and we showed the contact. We talked to Robbie about what happened. When you climbed out of the car, you turned to the camera and took the high road. How tough was that?
Well, that's from experience, because I've said things and done things in the past that I wish I hadn't have said. And, I knew that I'd done the right thing on the racetrack, and I wasn't going to inflame the situation any worse than it already was. It was already chaotic and drama-filled. There was no point extending that any further. So, for my sponsors, Kingsford and Ford and everyone involved, I think the right thing to do was just to walk away as gracefully as I could, even though I was still pretty hot under the collar. But, things have worked out great. I think more good has come out of this than bad. Anyway.
Marcus, in that last corner where you got in the back of Robbie and Robbie spun, was that you thought the green flag was still out at that point and you just couldn't get out of the throttle, or what was your side of the story on that one?
Yeah, we're talking milliseconds between, what was right and what was wrong and what should and shouldn't have happened. Basically, we do a restart. Robbie's right on my bumper bar. I get loose. He forces his way past, and I'm going to return the favour. I'm going to do the same thing to him into turn 5 or 6, whatever it was, around the bend. And next thing you knew, I've jacked him up and spun him out. And I didn't know how it happened until, he's spinning out, and then I see a yellow flag waving. So it was just like that. It wasn't intentionally to spin him out. I wanted to rough him up some. I wanted to get right under his bumper and give him a hard time.
There we go. That's what I'm getting at right there. You got to rough the cat up a little bit, right?
Yeah, well, he roughed me up. I'm going to do the same thing.
I will tell you, I got to give you credit, man. I don't think I've ever seen a driver in this sport that's been through as much as you have in this little time with always a built-in smile. You always got an upbeat attitude, and that's hard to do, Jerry.
Did you have any second thoughts about taking his phone call when you looked down on his phone and saw it said Robbie Gordon?
Well, it actually wasn't registered on my phone, so maybe I wouldn't answer it if I had known who it was. But really, I've got no malice against Robbie, and one of the worst things you can do in racing is carry the baggage from one week to the next. And, we had issues at Montreal. I don't want issues to happen again next time down the road. I think I know where he's at when he's racing, and I think he's got a fair idea where I'm at. We're both going to go at it if it's the end of the race, and it's great that we could square it up, and even better that, Robbie was such a great sport and gave me this opportunity, because he didn't need to do that. He sort of stood out here and said, okay, I've got to part apologise and part commend Marcus for what happened at Montreal, and let's move forward. And we've done that, and I'm sick of talking about it, to be honest with you. My voice is nearly dry.
Right? You got a big race tomorrow.
Well, let's talk about one other thing. I've been in this sport for 20-some-odd years, and some of the times we're just not having fun. Robbie can kind of attest to this. I'm sure Rusty can. Sometimes you're just not having fun, but you really, truly look like you're having fun doing this, and it's a breath of fresh air for all of us to watch.
Well, thank you. It's such a long swim to get over here. I'm just enjoying my time in the sun.
Well, let's break some news here now. What happens next? You were thrilled about the fact that the Camping World folks and Kingsford folks were going to come on board, and Robbie was going to give you a shot to run and make your next L Cup debut. Robbie, what's going to happen now that he doesn't get this chance here in the Cup side? Will you guys talk and maybe move this shot for him in a second car somewhere else?
I would like to. I'll offer it right here. We'll do it again this year if he wants to. We'll find a racetrack that he feels will be competitive for him. I'd like to do it in a COT race just because I think the field is more level there, and I can give him a better opportunity to perform in a COT car. So the offer's out there if he wants to do another one.
That's awesome. My focus is with Kingsford and the Busch Series and everything, and I really thank him a lot. I'll take him up on the offer. I'll be twisting his arm, don't you worry. I'll get the nod as we're walking out the gate here to make sure he's good to his word.
Michigan looks good to you right now, right?
Yeah,
Let's try that.
Maybe not Michigan.
Yeah.
Just among us girls here on the set, it's out of curiosity, if it came down to the final lap here, and it was you and Robbie, and he's leading, and you're running second, and you're trying to win a next L Cup race, would there be a little nudge or any contact, you think?
It wouldn't matter if I'm driving his car or anyone else's. You better watch out, because I'm coming to get him. There's nothing worse than knocking someone out you know, there isn't. But when you're both going at it, things happen, you know, and things happened last week. Quite a lot of things happened.
You talked about growing up, you know, in Australia, you know, Tasmania, and the fact that you guys go out and play Australian rules football, and you beat and just jump on each other and have these big brawls, and you'd all go have a beverage somewhere afterwards. Is that sort of what happened this week? I know Robbie talked about you guys had already talked about having lunch in the middle of the week, and then suddenly this idea came out for you to be in the second Cup car.
Yeah, I think this whole thing has just been great. I mean, the way that Robbie's handled the post-race situation, I think it's helped him get back on the same page with NASCAR and his fans and his sponsors. It's given me a great opportunity, and I think it's great. I mean, you know, yeah, we're going at it, we're going hard, and you know, when Australians play football, you want to knock each other's block off, and then you have a beer at the end of the day and tell them how close you got. You know, just the way it is. But I thank Robbie a lot for the opportunity he's given me, and got to thank you know, Camping World and everyone associated with this little program. It was a real rush. I mean, all these guys at the shop worked back late, turned the car around. I mean, it's just been an awesome effort to get this far. It's a shame it got rained out.
Well, it didn't happen today, but Robbie Gordon has put the offer on the table, folks. You heard it here. He does want this to happen before the year is out, to put you in another car with a team car in the car tomorrow. So Robbie's going to head back to the garage here. We're going to keep Marcus for a few more minutes. Robbie, thanks for joining us here, coming by. Yeah. All right. We're going to come back here. Nextel Cup Series qualifying has been postponed, but we still may be able to get NASCAR Busch Series practice. They're going to try to dry the track and get the Busch cars out in a little while. Back at Watkins Glen International, big weekend for racing for the NASCAR Busch and Nextel Cup stars. Live flag-to-flag action tomorrow for the NASCAR Busch Series. Sunday, 1 o'clock Eastern Time. Can Kevin Harvick repeat from that win a year ago? By the way, Kurt Busch won the Busch race with Robbie Gordon chomping at his rear bumper in the final laps of the NASCAR Busch Series a year ago. Now, Nextel Cup qualifying has been canceled because of rain, and we will set the field according to point standings. Guys, that means that Jeff Gordon and Denny Hamlin will lead them down in row 1.
Tony Stewart's got a good qualifying start right there. Reagan Smith, take a look at him. 5th row outside. One race he's got right now. Nothing beyond that.
And Juan Pablo Montoya won't have to come from so far back as he did in California. He's starting in 18th spot.
And if you're wondering about Reagan Smith, it's owner's points in the 0-1 car that Mark Martin has driven much of the year. That's the reason he gets to start so close to the front. You see Casey Kane back in row 14. David Gilliam, Robbie Gordon inside row 15. Patrick Carpentier, that great debut in a NASCAR Busch Series car a week ago, finishing second in Montreal. And the final starters, P.J. Jones, Jeremy Mayfield, and Kenny Wallace. Going home, Marcus Ambrose, Ward Burton, Hans Groff, Allmendinger, Brian Simo, and Boris Said. And speaking of Carpentier, Dave is caught up with him.
And a very happy now Patrick Carpentier, because he knows he will be in this race, but not with a lot of laps on this track in the car of tomorrow. So how confident are you now going into this event?
It should be good. We made some change to the car this morning, and the car suddenly came alive, and it was really good. So just the brakes, I seem to be using the brake up too much, but I'm really happy. You know, going from the Busch car, and I said, I got to come back and do one lap, and hopefully it's a good lap so we make the race. But with the rain now, we're in the race. That's all I wanted. So this way I get tomorrow, all day practice, couple hours, and should be ready for the race.
We talked with some of the drivers who have driven both types of Nextel Cup cars before, and they talked about a little more wheel hop, a little harder to get into the turn in this car. You have really not a lot of background in the other car, so is it an advantage for you just to jump in here and drive it?
Yeah, sometimes I think it is. You know, sometimes like even for us before in Indy cars, if you would change chassis and you're used to the other one, sometimes it's really hard to get used to the new one. But for me, coming in with a new chassis is good because I've never driven it before, so everything is, you know, I'm kind of letting the car do what it wants to do and just trying to follow what it wants to do, and it seems to be working really well.
And just so everyone understands, Patrick, you have not tested the car of tomorrow, this car particularly for other people. This is your first weekend in the car of any?
Yeah, first time in a Nextel or Winston car ever in my life. So we said this one. I was a bit nervous last night, and I was like, I hope it goes well. I have no idea how this car drives and stuff. But with the Busch experience, Montreal, the downshifting, and I had no wheel hopping, and it kind of helped me quite a bit. But no, it's different. But like you say, you know, I guess when you've never done it before, it kind of helps you a little bit. So it's been going good so far.
I want to follow up fun last week. It was a big event for you. You didn't win the race, but you had a lot of people were very happy of how well you did. What's the week been like since then, Patrick?
It's been crazy. It's like I won the race, and it was fantastic just to see. It was sold-out crowd, and people were cheering and standing up, and they love NASCAR in Montreal, and they fell in love with it. And this week we've been doing interviews since I've been out of the car, and I love it. It's been fantastic. It's been great for me. And then if you would have told me that perfect fairy tale, it wouldn't have been as perfect as that. So we're very happy. And now I'm with Valvoline Stanley in the Cup car and Supercut in the Busch this weekend, so it's great.
Now we have to go back in time just a little bit. There are a lot of people who are familiar with your open wheel experiences and your, shall we say, exploits in open wheel. Our producers tell me some tape exists of once when you lost a bet. And do we have our, I'm just trying to think, do we have our picture here? Patrick, we're going to bring it over here. And I'm wondering if this looks familiar to you. Oh, my God. Sometimes when you make promises, you have to keep them. And I understand Mid-Ohio, you had to sort of keep a promise there?
Yeah, this was bad. I promised the guys I was going to run naked if won the race. And there was a checker flag around a garbage can. So I took it and put it around me and started running. And the guys inside here, they just said, oh, what are you going to do if we win this race? I said, hey, if we win this race, you're not going to believe what I'm going to do. But I didn't say nothing, though. I learned from the last time.
So you've not told them it'll be a fantastic celebration, but you haven't told them what you'll do.
Yeah, it was fantastic, but when I saw the pictures in the newspaper the next day, I didn't think it was that fantastic.
Sponsors and family, they had some opinions as well?
Yeah, exactly. I was like, oh my God, I should have trained a little bit more.
Yeah, you know, Doc, it's all about what you see in the mirror at the end of the day, isn't it? And this guy, hopefully, on Sunday, we'll see a Nextel Cup car that runs from the back of the pack to the front. He'll start in the rear, but Patrick Carpentier has already proven he picks it up quickly in a stock car.
Dave, I'm just impressed that he honored that promise he made to run buck naked. And I'm glad that garbage can had a flag around it. By the way, it lives on video. Once again, back inside our pit studio with Marcus Ambrose. Marcus, coming from down under, we've heard that you have some unusual superstitions. Have you ever done anything like that unusual after celebrating a win?
Running naked down pit lane is not one of them. I've got to be honest with you there. Those Canadians can have all that themselves. Just... yeah, you know, we believe in luck too, and we have our own superstitions and things like that. I used to always get in the race car, you know, the right foot first. That all got messed up when I came over to NASCAR, and I'm driving on the wrong side. So I don't have enough flexibility to get my left foot in first.
You know, that's a good point. I never thought about that. What is it like driving a car on the other side on a road course? Does it really throw off your rhythm compared to what you're driving here?
Yeah, yes, it does, full stop. I mean, my very first race was at Martinsville in a truck. And after the driver intros, I actually tried to get in the wrong side of the car. I mean, I was that fizzed up, ready to go. And I went to go in, and then I realised there was no steering wheel. I thought something's crook here. I got back up, got my composure, went around the other side. I disguised it very well. My team owner, Tag Geschecter, actually only realised last week when I said that in a press conference. He didn't realise. And just little things. I mean, you know, the way you change gears, especially on these road courses, and just the perspective outside the window. Very different when you drive on left-hand or right-hand drive cars.
Well, we heard Patrick Carpentier talk about how difficult the adjustment is from being an accomplished road racer to jumping in a heavy stock car. And you've experienced that. What is the toughest transition to get out of a road race car, which you had in Australia, to get in one of these heavy stock cars?
It's just you have to wait. I mean, you have to wait for the car to settle. You have to wait for the weight to do what it wants to do on the racetrack. And that's the biggest thing. I mean, I always try to rush the car. I would try to hurry it up too much, and that always gets me in trouble. So the bigger the car, the more powerful, the heavier. You've got to let the car do its thing and then just caress it rather than be too aggressive.
Do you think it's easier for Patrick Carpentier and yourself to have your start in a car tomorrow, a car that a lot of people are still trying to understand? Do you feel like you're more on even ground when you get in that particular car?
You're asking the wrong guy because I only got 4 laps out there, so I was still trying to fill my way around the track. But I guess the car tomorrow is designed for that purpose. I mean, it's the straight-up race car, and it has to help. I mean, I'm excited about the car of tomorrow. I believe it's going to be good for guys like me trying to break into the sport, just because it becomes more about driving rather than the car being all twisted up and aerodynamics and all that other junk.
Marcus Ambrose, who's currently second in the NASCAR Busch Series points, his best finish 6th at Dover, hoping to get a chance to run his first Nextel Cup race today, but qualifying washed away. He'll have to wait a few weeks. And we are waiting here for NASCAR Busch Series practice coming up in just a little while. Rain and lights, never a good sign at a racetrack. And here at Watkins Glen, the rains have moved back in, which has caused a cancellation of NASCAR Nextel Cup qualifying. They've had to start the field, line the field up by owners' points and past champions provisionals. And, of course, the cars that did not qualify, Marcus Ambrose, one of our guests here, Ward Burton, Brian Simo, the former Trans Am champion, Klaus Groff, the German road racer, Boris Said, who has been so good in stock cars, and, of course, Marcus Ambrose, we mentioned, and A.J. Allmendinger. And let's visit once again, I think, where Boris has got to be a little bit disappointed. He's standing by with Dave.
Yeah, Doc, just catching up with Boris and with Brian Simo as well, both of whom did not make the show this weekend. Brian, we'll start with you. Weekend, you've got to go home, and it's just a hard thing to take.
Yeah, the go-home guys got it tough anyway. We know what we're up against. The weather's tough, and the way the rules are, you got no choice but to make the best of it. And what are you going to do? I mean, I feel bad for Boris. I'm sure he was going to have a great weekend, so the two of us will just look forward to the next couple races.
Find out what the next one will be. Boris, you guys look to be a car that could obviously qualify well into the show, and it doesn't end that way today.
No, I mean, that's 2 weeks in a row with NASCAR that, I just don't understand their thinking, I mean, tomorrow the Busch race is until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. There's no reason why they couldn't qualify tomorrow. I mean, we've already practiced once today. We could practice in the morning, then qualify and just impound them. And it's just disappointing. I mean, it pretty much puts our team out of business. I mean, between Daytona and here, I mean, I don't know what we're going to do now, but, all the weather for tomorrow is sunshine, sunshine, sunshine. And, they diddled around today and didn't get it done. I mean, I know NASCAR tried to get it done, but they should roll with the punches and make a change. I mean, they've done it in the past where they qualified on Saturday, and now they won't do it. So it kills us small teams. So it's a bitter pill to swallow.
Help me understand too. Does it work any better here at a road course to do that, or would you like to see that happen at an oval as well, where you guys show up?
It would have been nice at Daytona if they would have qualified, the last 12 or 14 cars, on Saturday when it was bright and sunny in the morning, but it didn't work there either. So. I just think they need to make plans. They know it's going to rain all day. Change qualifying to the next day. I mean, you guys put a show on the air, ESPN, to show the fans qualifying, and you just get a bunch of nonsense, just standing around watching the rain, and that's terrible. I mean, you need to, I guess, they really care about the top 35, and that's what they care about, and the small guys, we're trying to make it, but it's twice as hard. I mean, it's just, we're probably pretty much done now.
Boris, tomorrow is a pretty full day, though. I mean, they've got Busch qualifying. There's a one-day show now, and they impound those cars. They got a Busch race. I mean, considering the crossover, the team members doing things like that, you really think they could cram it in on a Saturday morning?
Easy, no problem.
All right, Boris said he'd rather race than go home, and that's a for sure, Doc.
And we must explain to people that Boris Said is an accomplished road racer, guys, and he obviously knew that this was a great opportunity for him. You saw he's had a third-place finish here in the past. Great opportunity for him to put that car in the front couple rows. And by the way, the last time he came to a racetrack was Daytona, and he was the provisional pole sitter with about 7 or 8 cars left to qualify when the rains came in. So you can understand his disappointment.
Well, he's definitely got a lot of disappointment in this. There's no doubt about that, guys. I mean, it's his own deal. He brings his car, all his money, all his stuff, and he doesn't make it. I mean, you can tell he's talking about his team. Maybe he won't be able to continue because of this financial setback he's got, guys. So obviously he's frustrated.
Well, 6 guys are going to go home from this race regardless. I mean, whether it's rain or whether we actually get there out and qualify. And I think what he's saying, what Boris is saying, it needs to be the guys that don't make it on speed. They need to have a chance to make the race, and these guys come in here and weather just knocks them out of even a chance to go on the racetrack and do that.
But realistically, if you're NASCAR, how do you fit it in? I mean, Marcus, how do you got a full day tomorrow? You guys have got to qualify the Busch cars. You got a Busch event. I mean, how does NASCAR cram even more into an already busy Saturday?
Yeah, you've got 2 races going on here. You've got the championship front runners at Cup, and then you've got these guys like myself and Boris who turn up from time to time and try and make a race. And what Boris is saying is, can't they just let the guys who are trying to make the race have their own little session, perhaps 12 or 13 cars tomorrow morning, and shoot out for it? I understand his reason for that. It makes a lot of common sense when you're outside the 35 in points. If you're in the top 35, I think you look at things slightly differently, but it's a tough one.
Yeah, that's another way of looking at it. Just take these guys, the 13 guys, 14 guys that that have to make it on speed and put them in a group and say, okay, guys, duke it out.
Go at it.
Yeah, see which one of you 6 has to go home, rather than just and looking at a sheet and saying, okay, this is our rules, and sorry guys, I know you had a car good enough to win, but you're not going to get to race.
It's like trying to change the direction of the Titanic, guys. I don't think it's going to change much. Because
we can talk about it, though.
We can talk about it. NASCAR's in control of that, and they've been doing it the same way for a long, long time. Again, it gets back to frustration with the money he's spending and things like that. And as a car owner, I can understand that, Jerry. I mean, the guy is really bothered by this.
Rain has dampened the afternoon here at Watkins Glen, but it was a week ago that it was the Penske Dodge that cast a shadow on everyone else in the Nextel Cup field.
Got trouble.
Again, Jamie McMurray. Jamie McMurray for the 3rd time.
It won't turn. Worst case scenario, you can change the shot.
Look at a lead change right here, folks. Mark in the books, Dale Earnhardt Jr. is leading.
Reeling in some red snapper.
And after a 51-race winless streak, Kurt Busch takes the win at Pocono Raceway.
And with the Pocono victory, Kurt Busch snapped a 51-race winless streak. Can you go from a slump to a streak, get back to victory lane this week?
Hey, that would be the easy way to do it, but it's been just 1 week at a time for us, and trying to build consistency with the program. And we've got Pat Tryson. Since his taking over the reins, it seems a bit more consistent each week. The comfort from atop the pit box, and then the car is building some aerodynamics into him.
You mentioned Pat Tryson, and it seems like it might be more than a coincidence. Since he came on board 6 races ago, you've been really on a tear. What's he brought to the table?
Well, he has some outlook from the outside. We at Penske Racing have been doing some great things and building what we thought we needed to work on, and then to throw in another guy that's very smart into the mix only helps us get better with more ideas and more people. So I think that's the key, but yet it's just 1 race at a time for us. And Watkins Glen, to me, was great to me last year, sitting on the pole and leading some laps. So I was looking forward to it today, but Mother Nature had different intentions.
That 1 race at a time philosophy seems to be paying some dividends for you. Since Dover, you've climbed from 17th to 11th in the standings. Still, you're kind of fighting for your playoff life right now. How would you describe the pressure as we head toward the chase?
Yeah, we're not out of the woods yet, you could say. We're only 7 ahead of Dale Jr. On the flip side, we're only 35 behind guys like Martin Truex, and above that it'll be tougher to catch them, but we still have our sights set on catching guys like Boyer and Harvick and doing what we can to really feel solid going into Richmond, because at Richmond it's a short track, the action is quick and it's fierce, and you just wish to have a little bit more of a comfort zone.
Yeah, Doc, a lot of good racetracks coming up for Kurt Busch. He mentioned Richmond also. Let's not forget about Bristol, and as he proved in a Busch race last year, he's pretty good here too, isn't he?
Mike, he was awesome at this racetrack a year ago, winning the pole in the Nextel Cup and the NASCAR Busch Series event. Didn't get the win in the Cup race, but boy, the final laps of the NASCAR Busch Series race, that is Robbie Gordon in the 7-car. Final lap as they come out of the inner loop and come down to the checkered flag. And indeed, Kurt Busch holds on to take the win a year ago. And what is this celebration, guys?
Well, it's not snowing, that's for sure, but it's a snow angel, we've heard.
And we'll have more NASCAR Busch Series action. The forecast tomorrow is very good sunshine all day. NASCAR Busch Series qualifying 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Nextel Cup happy hour 2 o'clock, and the NASCAR Busch Series flag-to-flag coverage coming up at 3 o'clock Eastern Time. That's all Saturday. Then we come back on Sunday for the NASCAR Nextel Cup Series at 1 o'clock Eastern Time on Sunday afternoon. And Marcus Ambrose, our guest inside the pit studio here. Marcus, we saw that your car, even though you only had a few laps on the track with the NASCAR Busch car, your car was very good, it seems, in terms of speed.
Yeah, really happy with that Busch car. I mean, it's the same car we drove last week at Montreal. It stayed up the north of the country. The boys stayed up with it, cut it apart, repaired all the damage to it here at a local shop, and here we are. So we're really excited about our car. It was a great package in Montreal. We've had to tune the springs and the roll bars and stuff here in the first practice. Looking forward to a good weekend.
How difficult was it for you to get in and out of the Busch car and to the car of tomorrow when you were trying to make the Cup debut? I know you had to do it just in a few minutes. I was over in the garage here. I saw you come running by and go jump in the Busch car. How tough was it to make that transition?
Yeah, jumping back into my Busch car, I mean, it's my car. I know exactly what it was going to do. It was like coming home. It was really nice. Jumping in Robbie's car, I mean, the first time I'd sat in it with my race suit on was 20 seconds before I drove out onto the racetrack. I've never been here before either, so it was a real scattered session for me on that COT and the Cup practice. I was looking forward to actually doing the qualifying because I think I would have picked up a lot of speed, but the rain came and it's history.
Marcus, was that always the plan to take the car you raced last week and race it here at Watkins Glen?
It was the intent. If we didn't damage it too badly at Montreal, we're going to try and keep it and use it here as our primary. And we did a little bit more damage than what we wanted to there at the last couple of laps, and the boys, drove a truck up with some spare parts, and they repaired it up here, did a fantastic job, and it's as good, if not better, than what it was in Montreal.
The mindset's probably pretty comfortable knowing that you ran so well, is it?
Well, it is, but these corners are different. I mean, it's a lot faster racetrack here at Watkins Glen. The corners are banked, it's high speed, so we need to control the roll more than what we did at Montreal. Montreal was about brakes and power down. Here it's about the lateral roll on the car. So we're still fiddling with it. We're not overly confident, but I think we should have a good day.
They talk about this racetrack being the super speedway of road courses because you do go so fast here as opposed to Infineon where you have to really be threading the needle. It's all about finesse. Where can you pass here? I heard drivers say there's at least 2 or 3 good passing zones, but I never heard them say exactly where they are.
Well, that's a secret, isn't it? I think just the end of the back straight is a classic into that little bus stop chicane. You can also squeeze a nose in there for the carousel around the back there, the horseshoe, whatever they call it, and then there's another big break in the back. So there's a lot of great opportunities to pass here. It's not a problem to pass cars on this road course, absolutely not.
All right, Marcus Ambrose has been our guest here. Marcus, we know you want to head back to the garage area because we may get a shot. They're still drying the track to get the NASCAR Busch Series car back out where you are second in the Rookie of the Year points and still inching closer to that first win. We wish you good luck here in practice today and the race tomorrow.
Well, thanks for having me on the show. I'm ashamed it was so long because, the rain just really mucked us all around here. But thanks for being on. I hope we have a good Busch race. It's going to be a cracker.
Marcus Ambrose, driver of the Kingsford Ford Kangaroo Meet, they call him. He's just a great guy. Good to have him here in NASCAR. Second in the rookie points. Back in just a moment. We welcome you back to Watkins Glen International Raceway, where we were set for NASCAR Nextel Cup qualifying, followed by NASCAR Busch Series practice. But as you can see across the Finger Lakes toward Lake Seneca, the clouds have moved down, the fog has moved in, and so has the rain. And so NASCAR Nextel Cup qualifying has been canceled, and now we're being told the NASCAR Busch Series practice will not happen. So it's all the work's going to happen here in the garage area, as they have already set the NASCAR Nextel Cup field, and they'll still have Busch qualifying on Saturday, which we will bring to you live in its entirety. We are 21 races in the NASCAR Nextel Cup season, and we just have 5 events remaining in the race to the chase. Here are the point standings, and look down at 12th spot. Kurt Busch, by virtue of that dominating performance a week ago, holds the 12th position. Dale Earnhardt Jr. is back in 13th. The good news for Dale Earnhardt Jr., he had his best finish of the year at Pocono last week, which was second. The bad news was the guy he had to beat him and won the race. As we head down to the Dale Earnhardt Jr. garage area, and let's check in where Mike is caught up with his crew chief.
And, Doc, the battle of the bubble has become certainly the battle of the suds, if you will, Budweiser versus Miller Lite. You guys had a good point day last week, closing in on almost everyone, except for the one guy you have to beat. How would you describe what transpired last week in terms of the points?
Everything's just real tight. I mean, our misfortune at Indy, I think Kurt might have got to capitalize on it, but for the most part, I'm really proud of my team. We've run well all year, and I'm not really worried about it. I mean, they just had a great car, and we got beat. But to finish second and to go through what we did and to come back from it, I was really happy. And just looking forward to the next 5 races. That's the ones that really count.
This team's been in the playoff hunt before, and they know what the pressure's like. That said, how's this team reacting to what's going on right now with just 5 races remaining before the chase?
I mean, you're pretty much just on chill mode. If I can the more I can keep these guys relaxed, the better we're going to be. So, right now we're taking one race at a time. I think we got some real good ones. We got California, Michigan. We run really well at those 2. Here, I think Dale Jr. will be really good, and Bristol. I mean, he likes Bristol, and we had good success there. I think we run top 5 there last time. So, I think we got a lot of good tracks coming up for us. And if Kurt wins every race from now to then, we finish second, so be it. He has it. You know, there's some other guys that we could gain points on, but both of us could end up being in it. So it's a long way off. I mean, you really don't worry about it till you get down to about one race to go. When you come into Richmond, wherever you got, you know what's got to happen and what's got to do, and then that's when we'll have to take charge.
How's your driver handling this?
He's pretty laid back. I think he's more up on the wheel right now than he's been all year. So he's pretty pumped up, and as long as we can keep him on that rail, I think it would be really good. I mean, this is the time of year you want to get momentum. You know, you don't need it at the first part of the year where some of these guys have had, and then start having bad luck. You want to get on a roll here, and usually whoever gets on the best roll is the one who wins the championship.
And certainly this is more than a two-driver chase for that final spot. The spread between 13th and 11th, just 45 points. Dave?
And just sneaking into 10th now is Clinton Boyer, and trying to hang on to that position as he races to the chase here. You know, I shared a comment on the air last week with people that you made coming up to Pocono. It's like we have to have a good run at Pocono because Watkins Glen is coming up, and that may not be my best track leading to the chase. And yet here you are now, starting way up in the pack because qualifying's been rained out.
Yeah, that didn't hurt my feelings then. I was a big fan of the rain today. But, no, I mean, you know, Gil and all the guys in the Jack Daniels Chevrolet, they brought me a good car. I think we'll be just fine. We always come to these high-stress places like this, and, you know, I'm all stressed out and telling them, oh, man, we got to make it, you know, this weekend. And always seems to come out, you know, looking pretty good. You know, this is just not a track where, you know, if we're not looking for a win here. We got to get out of here with a top 10, a top 15, and go on to Michigan where we know we're capable of winning, you know, at a Michigan, California, you know, maybe even Bristol. So if I can get out of here with a top 10, top 15, you know, 15 finish, I'll be happy and go on.
Are you comfortable here, Clint, during the race? Obviously, you've only had one here under your belt, but or do you think about things too much, just trying not to make a mistake?
I think that's just it. You know, you're so worried about making mistakes, and you know, right now where we're sitting, I really feel like the only ones that can beat us out of this chase is ourselves, and just wanting, you know, trying to capitalize on everything and not make that mistake and beat yourself, because you know, a lot of people back me in this deal, and you know, it's our job to keep them, you know, at the front of the pack, and don't want to let them down.
All right, Clint Boyer, not disappointed with the rain, as he said, Doc, and he'll start way up in the front of Sunday's race.
Dave, thank you. Clint Boyer will start 11th on Sunday, the 07 car. The same car, by the way, that he finished 4th with an Infineon back in June. Still trying to dry the track, but the weather continues to move in. We'll come back to wrap it up from Watkins Glen in just a moment.